I want you to imagine this. You were vice president of one of the most powerful countries in the world. You're also witnessing one of the most important events in history, World War II. You see that your leader is under great stress because of this war. But to add to the madness, Japan, one of the countries involved in World War II, decides to attack one of those prized landmarks, Pearl Harbor. They killed 2,335 of your soldiers and 68 innocent civilians. You are furious as you and your leader bring up your retaliation, which is an atomic bomb, a bomb that can level a whole city. Your leader passes away. You're elected to drop the bomb because of what your old leader has gone through. But at the same time, your job as president is to protect the nation and not worry about the opposing side's well-being. Truman's decision was very justifiable due to the fact that Truman was saving lives, ending the war, and protecting his nation. Welcome to this debate, as me and my teams will tell you that it was correct decision to drop the atomic bomb.
Boom! A big blast blows you away. Your skin is burning and your clothes have turned to rags. What happened? You, completely and utterly clueless, being crawling into the direction of your home, hardly making out the sight of women, children, and men fighting for their lives because of the impact of the bomb. One woman even had her eyeball sticking out. Disturbing, huh? Where do we, as humans, draw the line when it comes to the thirst for power or basic human dignity? What do you think is more important? Yes, the Japanese also wanted power, but at least they played by the rules. Unlike America, who has a horrible reputation filled with racism, lying, and cheating other nations. That's why, today, we are here to argue that Truman's decision to drop the bombs on the two Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, was unjustified because American citizens who were of Japanese descent were faced with racism. Not only that, but the bomb endangered the lives of thousands of innocent civilians and began the threat for a nuclear race.
Before anything else, Truman's decision was the right one because he was defending his own nation by using the atomic bombs after Japan's unpredicted attack that ended up involving the US in World War II. For instance, we have an outside source, which is an article written by Harvey S. Truman Library, which affirms on paragraph 4. The Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941, brought the United States officially into World War II. President Franklin Roosevelt called the attack a day which will live in infamy, and the American people were shocked and angered. This piece of evidence is illustrating the point of view from the American people who were indignant by this cruel act from Japan. First of all, this unconscionable Japanese attack was the only reason the United States of America entered the war, which also provoked them to target Japan as their enemies, well known as their Axis. Also, let me ask you something. Why? Why would you attack a nation that hasn't done anything to yours and is not even involved in the current war? Okay, it's understandable that you want to attack a nation to gain power. But wait, at the same time, you're risking your own nation's safety. Unfortunately, that's what Japan decided to do, which clearly affected them in a greater aspect. At this point, all of you guys, the judge, and even you might be wondering, so if Truman was defending his nation, was it necessary to drop 2 atomic bombs? Wasn't there another option? Actually, yes, there was. But after Truman and his advisors closely analyzed these possibilities, they found out that they will have provoked more victims, chaos, fighting, and most of all, violence. However, Truman cared about these factors, and that's why he dropped the atomic bombs.
Truman's decision to drop the atomic bomb was justified as it undoubtedly ended the war, ultimately saving countless lives and preventing further prolonged suffering on both sides of the war. Now, turning our attention to the following evidence, on document B, Henry Louis Stimson states, we estimated that major fighting would not end until the later part of 1946, at the earliest. I was informed that such operations might be expected to cause over 1 million casualties to American forces alone, enemy casualties being much larger than our own. As well as in the book Weapons for Victory, the Hiroshima decision 50 years later, historian Robert James Maddox stated, the atomic bomb saved more lives than it took. It was a military weapon to protect American lives. Considering the fact that if Truman hadn't dropped the atomic bomb, the war would have in fact caused more casualties, especially on the Japanese side. For you guys to say that the atomic bomb killed innocent lives, yes, it did. But it is so ignorant for you guys to disregard the fact that it saved lives and prevented more lives from being taken on both sides of the war, especially Japan.
Truman's decision was the right choice because he wanted to end the misery of the war. For example, in the background essay, it states there was general agreement that the war needs to end as soon as possible. Just imagine yourself being all alone in your nation after losing all of your family due to Pearl Harbor bombing. Wouldn't you be mad and upset if your president just sat there and did nothing? No, you would want him to end the war so no other families could experience the pain that you are experiencing. Continuing in the background essay, it states each day that the war continued brought great suffering. This example is proving that each day that the war went on brought loads of damage to innocent people just trying to live. Both pieces of evidence support that every day that the war went on made Truman realize how much pain that his people and his nation are going through. This shows readers and proves to readers that grief and pain can ruin a person.
The treatment of Japanese people after the attack on Pearl Harbor is often a topic that is overlooked. The treatment of these Japanese Americans and the discrimination they faced were clear examples of this unjust and prejudiced treatment. It is important to recognize and acknowledge the impact racism has on shaping these historical events. During the early 20th century, as Japan posed a growing military threat towards the United States, there was a rise of suspicion towards those of Japanese descent. This heightened paranoia about national security resulted in an anti-Japanese movement, which was particularly evident in Hawaii. Additionally, during the early 20th century, in Document F, the final paragraph mentions that the decision to use the atomic bomb was made to shorten the duration of the war and to save the lives of young Americans. However, it is important to acknowledge that this only saved the lives of full Americans, not Japanese Americans, those of whom were being forcibly removed from their homes and placed into internment camps. Those camps being ringed with barbed wire fences and flooded with cases of internees being killed. Imagine being forced to leave your home solely based on suspicion surrounding your race. 1,862 Japanese Americans died in these camps, most of which were due to the inadequate medical care and the emotional stresses they encountered. I am telling you that America took the lives of their own citizens only due to their cultural background, and you still believe that Truman had good intentions. Because of this, it is clear that these treatments were not only unjust, but inhumane in an act of racism.
Truman's fatal decision in 1945 to drop the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki endangered the lives of thousands of innocent civilians, leaving an impact on humanity forever. For example, Document A shows a chart of civilian deaths from the atomic bomb. Over 300,000 civilians died from the bombing in high-populated cities. Imagine you're just a regular civilian in 1945 and then President Truman points fingers at you for something your military did. Doesn't seem fair, right? I didn't think so. Many Japanese civilians suffered because of Truman's decisions. Now you're suffering from PTSD, or you may have more physical problems such as scars, burns, or amputation, or even skin cancer due to skin exposure to radiation. This is just the beginning of your problems.
President Truman's decision cast a shadow over the future use of nuclear weapons, paving the way for the ongoing threat of a nuclear war. It's crucial to recognize the gravity of this situation to prevent further chaos. The risks are too high to ignore. In Document F, it states that the United States would be the first to release this new means of indiscriminate destruction upon mankind. They would sacrifice public support throughout the world and begin the race for nuclear armaments. The spread of nuclear weapons and the race to get them is not just a worry, it's downright scary. Imagine the devastation if these weapons were ever unleashed. The harm to the people and the environment would be unimaginable. It's not just about the physical damage, it's also about the countries, the trust crumbling, making the world feel more scary.
Janaya, what you just said is completely inaccurate. The sad reality is that children and the elderly would have faced inevitable harm regardless of what weapon used by the U.S. When Japan attacked America at Pearl Harbor, they didn't consider the innocent lives that would be harmed, so why should the U.S. prioritize the well-being now? One of the only things that you guys are paying attention to is the fact that Truman killed innocent lives. But you are being very oblivious to the fact that Truman probably had so many countries watching him, and if he didn't drop the bomb, they would have thought that he was a coward and attack America along with Japan. how would you feel that your own president isn't man enough to protect you and your nation? You would feel like he shouldn't be president, right? Like he isn't worthy, right? Exactly. Ava, you and your fellow teammates continue to complain about how he made the wrong decision, but look at the evidence. In document F, President Truman clearly states 5 reasons as to why he used the bomb. And I don't know about you, but those 5 reasons are very compelling. Furthermore, President Truman's duty was to protect his nation, not the well-being of the opposing side. If you were the president of a nation and another nation attacked you, what would you do? Would you allow them to harm you, or would you protect yourself and your nation, which, not to mention, that you are literally responsible for? To elaborate this idea, imagine you were going about your business, someone unexpectedly punched you in the face. I'm sorry, Ariana. Would you be concerned about the force of your counterattack or if it left a mark, or would you swiftly retaliate to protect yourself? I believe you and your whole entire team would choose to protect yourselves, so why are you arguing that Truman made the wrong decision? So, after taking these points into account, respectfully, it's kind of ridiculous that you think he made the wrong decision.
While Ava and her team thinks Truman's decision was wrong, I strongly disagree. It was unfair to Pearl Harbor as Japan attacked with no warning. At least when the United States attacked, you guys were warned. In document B, it states, we have used it against us who attacked without warning. But wait, in the background it says, U.S. warned that it faced prompt and utter disruption. Does it seem fair to you? Oh, I thought so. Now you and your colleagues should reflect on the audacity Japan's decision had to attack without warning. What if it was your family members in the military? They were not prepared for it. Wouldn't you be saddened and hurt too? Oh, I thought so. Although there were long-term effects because of the atomic bomb, Ariana and Janaya, the Japan just expect the United States to might fall back. There was an estimated of 2,000 American soldiers and 68 innocent civilians that were hurt just to solidify time and power for their empire, found on the article Japan's Plan on PBS.org. Japan's attack was so uncalled for and unnecessary. Would you like to be attacked just because people are selfish and want more time? Oh, I didn't think so. So, now, enough of that. Either way, Japan wasn't going to surrender, stated in document B, where it says Japanese government might choose to resist until the very end, proving the point that war was just going to keep going and going. The atomic bomb was the only way to stop all of this. It was going to keep continuing hurting others. Would you like that? No. So like I said, I respectfully disagree with Ava and her teams that Truman's decision was wrong.
For the greater good of America, they said. Another powerful weapon in the arsenal of righteousness, they said. Does this sound fair to you? Honestly, does it? This is what your president, your supporter, had said about the atomic bomb and the whole situation entirely. This is entirely not fair, because if you were to support this decision, just think, all of you as leaders in President Truman's shoes, would you drop the atomic bomb? I'm sure you all would, as Ivy said, because it sounds ridiculous to be on the wrong side, right? So since you all would agree that you would have dropped the atomic bomb, guess what? You will all get charged with war crime. You cannot, and I mean you cannot, drop a life-changing, world-impactful bomb amongst the civilian population and expect no consequences. Sure, at the time, there was just merely, any care in the world, as anything was just happening. No respect, no care. What were they supposed to do? It was a free-for-all. Anybody was doing anything they wanted. Next thing I want to talk about is how you guys were talking about the warning. The warning of prompt and utter destruction, correct? That was merely just a few words. Prompt and utter destruction. How is that helping anything? War crimes. Ms. Ford, can you please read what's in this blue box for me, highlighted in purple?
The court held that the dropping of atomic bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima were violations of the laws and customs of war because the attacks did not distinguish between military and civilian targets and inflicted necessary suffering.
Did you see those last 2 words? Unnecessary suffering. Yes, around 60-something people were killed when the bombing of Pearl Harbor happened. 60, compared to the hundreds and thousands lives lost during the atomic bomb. Hundreds and thousands. Do you hear that? Compared to 65? I'm sure you all know math, right? Which is greater? Hundreds and thousands. That is clearly not fair. Not fair at all. You guys can see at the top where it says September 30th, 1938, before Pearl Harbor and before the atomic bomb. Meaning, this should have been to Truman's knowledge. He's vice president. He should know common rules. If he knows one day, he may or may not lead a nation. So, Ms. Ford, can you read, if you can't read it on here, you can read it on your computer, the 3 lastings.
Number one, the international bombing of civilian populations is illegal. 2, objectives aimed at from the air must be legitimate military objectives and must be identifiable. And the last one, any attack on legitimate military objectives must be carried out in such a way that civilian populations in the neighborhood are not bombed through negligence.
Guess what? They were bombed through negligence. They were just bombed. Do you know that? I'm sure you did. You studied, right? So, I'll talk about this. The warning about prompted under destruction was very vague. Didn't really help with much. If somebody were to come up to you and say, prompted under destruction, you wouldn't care. It's unintelligent. It's ignorant. It's not very much detail. You would just continue doing what you're doing. Moving on. This is what you're supporting. This is what you're supporting. Kids being harmed. Black rain falling from the skies. Kids getting harmed. Adults getting harmed, losing their families, losing their lives. Mind you, all to prevent all this lives and kids from being harmed, they could have just bombed this naval base in Japan, which was established in 1938, same year as the League of Nations. Could have just did that. Did they? No. You see this? It's incendiary bombs, the bombs that were used before the atomic bomb. Harmful, right? Burned, just a few cities. Ms. Ford, can you read this quote for me?
There's nothing new in the world except the history you do not know.
The history you do not know. Did you know something called the Doolittle Raid? A raid in which America came to raid Japan a year after Pearl Harbor. A year after Pearl Harbor, yes. They raided them. Does this sound fair? So I'll leave you with that. Does this sound fair?
Obviously, at this point, the decision to drop the atomic bomb was the right choice to defending his nation after Japan's unexpected attack that plunged the U.S. into World War II. Placed in his shoes, we can understand the massive amount of responsibility he possessed and the urgent need to save American lives. The atomic bombs were a necessary measure to stop further aggression and end the war as rapidly as possible. While the consequences were tragic, Truman acted responsibly in the face of a relentless enemy. Criticizing his decision with hindsight views of the pressure he faced, let us recognize the weight of leadership and difficult decisions leaders must make in times of crisis. Truman's choice was driven by duty and the pursuit of peace, exemplifying his commitment to defending his nation. As I finish concluding, I think it's pretty clear to say Truman's decision was justified. During this discussion, our team has brought up significant and valid points, highlighting the racial injustice faced by Japanese Americans, the detrimental impact on innocent civilians, and the potential dangers for a nuclear arms race. Lots of people may think that this topic is irrelevant to them, but history has a tendency of repeating itself, which is very clear today. So we should look back and learn from Truman's mistake. Today, I aim to leave you asking yourself a crucial question. Do you think it was morally justifiable for Truman to deploy 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities Hiroshima and Nagasaki, even with all of these negative points that our team has brought up today?